Hey everyone, Talk of the Town is up and running in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, USA. I'm Scott Montesano, and this is where the Chippewa Valley comes to talk with you on this Tuesday. Nice little snowfall on Tuesday in Eau Claire and the surrounding areas. One of those good snowfalls in which an inch, probably less, fell. Not a lot of travel implications to it, though I'm sure if somebody all of a sudden quickly forgot their winter driving skills, you would go sliding through an intersection. But a nice snowfall, a reminder it's still winter. And in a few weeks, we'll be excited about there being the sunshine and whatnot. We're going to start getting 7 o'clock sunsets here in the next 2 weeks. But a reminder, it's still winter, and this is one of those pretty snows, not that cold outside. We got things to get to today. A reminder, no shows the first 2 weeks of March because Uncle Scotty's going on a vacation down to Disney World. And when I come back, hopefully we still have a company. But no shows the first 2 weeks of March. Oh, no Talk of the Towns. We'll still very much have a number of the other shows you know and love, but we will not have the Talk of the Town program the next couple of weeks because I need a chance to recharge. I need a chance to go down to Disney World. I need a chance to go say hello to the mouse. Things to get to today. First off, I was downtown this morning, downtown Eau Claire, and a reminder, because it was a somewhat nice day for February, how I just like the sound of a city center before it really wakes up. And you get more of this in the springtime and particularly the summer and into the fall when there is just more outside and you've got more of the cadences of outside with the sound of birds and what have you. You don't really hear a lot in the winter anyway, but was reminded I like the sound of a city waking up. And Eau Claire might not be the largest of cities, but it is still a city. I like that. If you're looking for a simple joy and you've got time, I don't recommend it necessarily at this time of the year because you're not going to get the full effect and you're going to want to be hustling inside, but go downtown early in the day, especially on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's when you've got the most amount of stuff that will wake up. Go downtown at 8 or even 9 in the morning and you'll see it wake up ever so little, and which is kind of cool. We start with this. I know I mentioned it last week, but a reminder, I really do like that Golden Apple Award that WEAU does. I like the idea of highlighting teachers. I think they only do it with the Eau Claire public school system, and it's part of a sponsorship that they have, part of a deal, a marketing gimmick that they have. But I like the idea of highlighting teachers, what teachers do in the area, because whether it is the public schools, whether it's the parochial schools, whether it's the private schools, and no matter what you may believe about administration at various schools, let's not forget at the core it is the teachers, the vast majority doing a very good job. And it is a skill to be a teacher. It takes, the more you hear about it, the experienced teachers and the administrators will all say the same thing. It takes about 5 years before you really get into a rhythm. And that's something common across a lot of industries. The old 10,000 hours or whatever it is to master a craft. You hear it a lot in real estate. You've got to be in it for 5 years before you're really starting to sink your teeth in. Same thing there with teachers. You can start off and be good. Doesn't mean you have to stink your first couple of years when you're a teacher, but the true benefit of teachers, there we go. The true benefit of teachers, like anything else, they fall into rhythms as time goes on. It's not just that you learn from other people that are pointing out foibles. You yourself start to see, oh, I could have done this better. You get into patterns. So a big testament to all the teachers out there. It is a craft, whether it, again, is the public schools, the private schools, the parochial schools, all of that. Speaking of the public schools, dropping later this afternoon, late word that the Eau Claire School District, along with 18 others, and I don't think there's any other local that are doing this, but they have bounded together 18 schools suing the state of Wisconsin. In essence, what they're suing the state of Wisconsin for, what they are pounding their fists on the table for, is that for the issues with funding and the fact that the state is not providing adequate funding. Now, the idea of this suit is not to just all of a sudden open up the faucet. It is kind of a movement suit, if you will, to advance discussions some more. And we've talked about it before, whether here's the reality. It is a reality with public school financing in the state of Wisconsin. It is completely broken. It is completely broken. And you and I are being treated like suckers because people at the state of Wisconsin level, state politicians, are able to constantly say, we're putting a cap on costs. We're putting a cap on costs. Yeah. But you and I still have to pay for it. So it ends up going back down to the local level where you have to have an increase in taxes there, and you don't have as much buying power at the local level, so it ends up costing more. At best, you're able to keep state taxes down, but you're still raising costs locally, so it's at best a wash. At worst, we're spending more. And I do know, there are some out there that they would love nothing more than to shutter public schools. They think public schools are one of the biggest grifts in our society, which is a complete fabrication. I am all okay with choice for school. But at the same time, let's not do it at the detriment of the public schools that not just are the public schools in that you can get in, it's already covered, and everybody's already paying into the public schools and all of that, but they've been around for so long that they've got the infrastructure that the private schools simply do not have. And to that end, you've got the parochial schools that have also been around for a while, and they've got the infrastructure. And the infrastructure, folks, isn't just the actual buildings, because the private schools, your XYZ academies and whatnot, they're working on that. They're repurposing old buildings. In some cases, they're building their own and all that. I'm not talking about just the physical plants, but they don't have the in-depth music and theatrical options. They do not have the athletic options that are available. They do not have the depth of teachers and educators. Now, you could also argue, they're not as fat administrative-wise. Many of them are operating maybe leaner than the public schools, and I'll give you that. Could you go through some of these public schools and say, hey, do we need X, Y, Z? Can we make things leaner? You are correct in that regard. However, that's not going to, in one fell swoop, fix the cost issues. It's not. I'd love it if that was the case, a business person myself. And it does frustrate me when I look through some of these school districts, like Eau Claire and whatnot, and to see, well, do we even need a communications department? Do we even need that? There's things I can sit through and go, hey, can we pare this down? Can we slice this off? But that we are well beyond that being the issue at this point. So again, as you look at this, and I know for some people they're going to go, oh, the public school's crying about money. They just got to try to go and find and make it work. We're beyond that now, folks. We are well beyond that. This is not referendums for toys. When I grew up, it was always there was referendums where I'm from in upstate New York, and it was there was an every other year referendum in my school district growing up to buy more school buses because the school district ran its own bus company, did its own busing. And there was always every couple of years referendums for toys, like artificial turf on the football field, upgrades to the gym, things for the theatrical department. And sometimes those would pass. A lot of times those would fail. The buses would almost always pass, but all the other stuff, it was hit or miss. All these referendums we are getting now are, hey, can we have more coal to put into the boiler? It's basically what it is. Hey, Willie down in the basement is running out of coal to put into the furnace. We need money for coal to keep the thing hot. We're exaggerating here. Mentioned EAU before. I'm going to mention EAU again. Good for them. Getting all the coverage is EAU. So WEAU, we mentioned this a couple weeks ago, the story that came out a couple of weeks ago, that the franchisee throughout most of Wisconsin for Burger King's, this Cave Enterprises, and they are the franchisee for the vast majority of Burger King's in Eau Claire and some of the surrounding areas. There's a couple of exceptions, but they are the main franchisee, and they've got locations throughout Wisconsin, into Minnesota, and down in Illinois. And the story came out a couple weeks ago that they have got thousands of child labor law violations. In-depth investigation by the state, and they are facing huge fines that they've got to pay, I think, coming up in the next few days, or they'll face more repercussion. These child labor violations are, in essence, kids that are too young to work at all being allowed to work, kids working longer hours than they're supposed to for what 14 and 15-year-olds are legally able to do, not giving proper break times. And we do not know quite yet which ones maybe are specific to Eau Claire, but it's a systematic issue across the franchises. They've found issues down in Milwaukee, Madison, Duluth, I guess. One has to assume there's some issues in Eau Claire. It is a systematic issue with this Cave Enterprises. Great reporting, and I recommend yourself go and check it out. EAU did, and they are following up on the case. They're filing their foils and what have you, but they're starting to get interviews. They're trying to get comment from Cave Enterprises. They've gotten comment from state authorities. Great reporting by EAU. And through their reporting that came out today, the crutch of what you got, we heard this story 2 weeks ago, but the crutch of it is it's systematic issues that go beyond innocent mistakes for Cave Enterprises. This is not just a rogue general manager at one of the stores who doesn't know any better, or a couple of rogue general managers. It is something that basically from the top, they're saying you can do this, in which the top knows you cannot do this. Tip of the cap to EAU. I recommend you go and check out the story yourself. And then for us locally, and it's very easily findable online, if you really have a hankering for a Whopper, pick the Burger King in town that's not run by Cave Enterprises. You're at the point right now where there's no reason for you to go eat at Cave Enterprises, Burger King. None. Absolutely none. Even if you love Burger King. You'll love the French toast sticks, or the croissant witch, or the Whopper. You don't want to support this business. This is not, again, an innocent mistake by a rogue general manager. And even if the spot you go to in town, that Burger King, you know the employees. The employees have told you, hey, this place is run on the up and up. It still goes back to Cave Enterprises. Don't support them. I am a quick one, as we've said on this show numerous times. The whole local versus franchise thing, I say, slow your roll a little bit. Don't eat at the don't eat at the chains. Eat at local. Well, the local is still, the chains still have local employees and all of that. In this case, though, if it's a national chain, let alone the fact that this has been a systematic issue, but also you're already playing with 2 strikes. You do something like this, that's strike 3. You're out. I have no reason at all to go to you. Hey, a Whopper is good. The French toast sticks and croissant sandwiches are really tasty. But I got too many other options in town. Locally, there's still people, myself included, that have never gone back to that Mexican eatery around Oakwood Mall because of the stories that came out of there about the owner. You've got too many other options. So we'll see what all comes out of it. Burger King's not going to leave the market and all that. What you would eventually see, I would think, is at worst, you might see Cave Enterprises have to give up their locations. I do wonder when Burger King itself steps in, because this is hurting Burger King as a whole. Because all people in town are going to keep hearing about is, well, there was all these child labor violations at the Burger Kings. They call themselves the Burger King. They're a disgrace. Sweatshop labor. The narrative's going to get out of control. When does Burger King step in and say, hey, we got to make sure we have the trust of the people in the Chippewa Valley and in Milwaukee and in Madison and all of that? If you do eat at a Burger King, or any place, by the way, wash your hands. The norovirus is circulating heavily in our area. I know members of my son's hockey team battled it last week. The norovirus is it's a way. You know what the norovirus is? It comes out all holes. That's what it is. It's one of those things that you absolutely do not want it. It's a painful 24, maybe 48 hours where it's coming out multiple holes sometimes at the same time. One of those things that you yourself don't want it, but maybe, you never want to wish long-term harm to any one of your enemies that you keep on a laminated list. Norovirus, though, is one of those things that if you've got an ex-girlfriend or an ex-boyfriend recent, you're like, I hope they get the 24-hour stomach bug, or a boss you don't like, or a supervisor you don't like, or somebody that wronged you. This is one of those things that you kind of wish. You never want them to have a broken limb. You never want them to have long-term strife. But 24 hours of sitting and clutching a toilet is one of those things that you kind of do wish upon your worst enemy. But if you yourself want to avoid having the poops and the squirts, wash your hands out there. They are reminding us. The Eau Claire Library is reminding everybody that they hold free legal clinics the 3rd Thursday of every month. So we've already passed that here in February, right? Yeah. But the 3rd, look ahead to March, I guess. The 3rd Thursday of every month, the Eau Claire Library hosts free legal clinics. They cover a number of things there. With that, workers' comp and wages and stuff of that nature. There's also a notary service. Free legal clinics at the library, 3rd Thursday of every month. And the city of Eau Claire reminding all of us that they are still looking for poll workers for the spring election. A great way for all of you to get involved in the electoral process and give back and what have you, and learn a little bit on the inside as to what happens in the whole thing with it. Some other quick little things that I wanted to hit on today. We talked more about it uh, on Monday with our Sports Watch show, and I recommend you go back and tune into that. But Blue Gold basketball, both the men and the women, missed out on the WIAC postseason, so there will not be any playoff or tournament basketball at the Sod and Tag Center for college. I'm going to expand on that in a moment. Disappointing. Will there be changes? With the men, absolutely not. With the women, I think there's a possibility. I wouldn't make a change, though. If you did make a change with the women's basketball program, there are arguments to be made that that's the correct call. I wouldn't, but it's not a slam dunk, if you will, that you do not make a move. What I will say is this, and we have a new Visit Eau Claire podcast that dropped a couple of days on Monday, talks about a big kind of football showcase event that's going to go to the field house at the Sonntag Center the second weekend in March, the second full weekend in March. What I hope to see in March, because you're not going to have any other tournament basketball in the arena now, we're getting to high school basketball playoffs. And I started to look at the brackets and all of that. I'd love to see at least one, if not two, of the sectional games for girls or boys to be played at the Sonntag Center. Would absolutely love to see it. Love to see it. Now, a lot of times, remember, the second weekend in both the girls and boys basketball playoffs is when they play at quote-unquote neutral sites. And they try to find a facility, they try to find a town that's in between the two schools that are competing. Well, I'd love, especially if you get two schools that are somewhat local to the area, I'd love to see them pal up and say, let's play at the Sonntag Center, as opposed to playing at Eau Claire North or Chi High or Altoona. And I get it that some of these schools that are hosting, they get revenue from it. Spare me with that. Here I am talking about they all could use revenue earlier, but this is what this building was built for. And actually, I believe the vast majority of athletic directors in the area kind of agree with it as well. Let's get the pattern of playing these games at the Sonntag Center. It would be better for the players. It would be better for the schools. It would be better for the community. That's why we built the goddamn thing, was for stuff like this. And now, last year, there was no shot at all. There was no shot at all with the guy that was running the Sonntag last year. New guy running it, much more of a sports guy. I would like to think you're going to see, boy, imagine this. I'm just throwing this out there. In a couple of weeks, the next, not this Saturday, but the following two Saturdays will be the days in which teams play for the right to go to the state tournament. Imagine if that first Saturday you've got 2 or 3 girls' games back to back to back. The week after, boys' games back to back to back. Oh, it'd be huge. Be huge. Be great for the area. Be absolutely great for that. Get people out and about. Take advantage of the Sonntag Center. Again, that's why we built the son of a gun. That's what the whole reason for us having it was. We built it so that we would have events like this. All right. We'll be back with you. Short show today. Not a lot to get to. We're not diving into the rate increase with the water. I know that upsets people, and it's got people frustrated. The water and the cost of the water going up maybe 20%. We discussed this a few weeks ago. The issue is much deeper than what the city council may vote on. Why are these costs so high? You know, what makes these costs so high? And it's not as simple as, well, they're paying this person this much or that. Why are the costs so high? We have to do deeper dives into what makes these costs so high. And also, how does this compare to other parts of the state? Remember, we've now learned that, hey, just because costs are going up doesn't mean that they have to go up if we do a deeper dive. We learned that with the garbage hauling situation. Upon a deeper dive, there's no reason we should be paying the highest prices in the state per capita, and there's other options. There's other options that may actually seem like they're harder, like doing it yourself as a community. On paper, it would make more sense as we did to have competition, but it didn't play out that way. Maybe we only have the one hauler or we take it in ourselves, and that would lower the cost. So when looking at water, same kind of thing there. What would it take to lower the cost? You can't be having 20% increases for that. Also was the issue we should have been raising it ever so slightly throughout, too. I've heard that from some other municipalities as well. They go, you get, we're seeing it with Wisconsin state legislators when it comes to public school financing. The current people are able to say, yep, I'm not raising the cost because they're punting the issue down the way. You see that sometimes with small towns and small cities. We're not raising taxes. They know by the time they're out, the next group that comes is going to have to raise the taxes. Because at one point you do have to match instead of, as opposed to just a little bit, a little tiny that you'd barely notice. They don't want to do that. They say, I'll leave it as is. And then the next group that comes in, they have to slap on the 10%, 20% charge. All right, that'll wrap it up for us today. Again, short show. We're not talking about the water, all that. Thankfully, there's not many other major stories in the area going on right now. There's nothing wrong with there not being something that really fires us up. So, on behalf of everyone who made this podcast possible, I'm Scott Montesano saying there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. Make sure to take advantage of it. And until next time, so long, everybody.